So I lead to my wife's friends after a heated argument, and now she's furious that I didn't tell them the truth. She says I've made things worse, but I'm not so sure. My wife, 39F, and I, 40M, have been married for 8 years and have a 4-year-old son. So we both work full-time, have a good handle on household duties and expectations. My wife has been really busy at her job the past 6 weeks or so. Her job does a lot of seasonal work, and this time of the year is among their busiest. They have a lot of seasonal workers they hire to help, and they held a party happy hour for them last week. The week before the party, my wife was at a work conference for 4 days while I was holding down the home front. The day of the party, she told me that she would only stay until 6 to 7 so that she could be home for our son's bedtime. I went about our normal evening routine with our son and got a text from my wife at about 7:15 telling me that she was just wrapping up and would be home soon. I put our son to bed and started doing some cleaning, and the next thing I know, it's 9 p.m. and my wife isn't home, so I text her to see if she's okay. She calls back a few minutes later and tells me she's still talking with people but will be heading home soon. I was a little frustrated and annoyed by this. When she got home, I told her that I would appreciate a little more communication from her if her plans are going to change like that. She got defensive and told me that I am not supporting her and that she needs to feel like she has the freedom and agency to do social things without me policing and parenting her, and that she lost track of time. I told her that 90 minutes is a long time to lose track of and that it takes 20 seconds to send a text. She got mad and went off to bed. That weekend she had a few friends over for cocktails. My wife was inside doing something, so I went out to the patio and said hi to her friends. I then asked them if I could get their opinion on a disagreement my wife and I had. So I told them the story about my wife's work party, but lied and told them that it was me that stayed out without updating my plans. They started going off on me for not respecting my wife enough to give her an update after 90 minutes, and that even though it's important for parents to have social time, I need to recognize that the only way I can do that is by my wife staying home with our son. They all told me I owe my wife an apology and that I need to do better. In the middle of their admonishment of me, my wife came out and asked what we were talking about. One of her friends said that I had just told them about the party the previous week, and they were telling me I need to apologize. My wife looked confused and said, "But I was the one who had the work party." I was sitting there with a little smirk on my face, and my wife got pissed. Her friends did too. Her friends told me I was a jerk for lying to them and tricking them. I asked them if their advice for me still applies to my wife, and they all got defensive and tried to change their stories. So my wife got upset because I embarrassed her. Next story. So my best friend of 13 years pushed me into shark-infested waters as a prank. Now I'm suing him for endangering my life. I, 27M, have been best friends with M27 for 13 years. We've always been super close. Last week we went on vacation to a beach state, and everything was going great until this happened. We were hanging out near a pier, taking pictures. There were hammerhead sharks in the water, clearly visible but far enough away. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he shoves me into the water. I freaked out, screaming, thinking I could die. Thankfully, a lifeguard pulled me out right away, but I was absolutely terrified when I got out. I saw my friend laughing and filming the whole thing. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even say a word. I just went back to the hotel, packed up, and finished the trip on my own. So later that night, he sent me the video making fun of the whole thing. I felt so humiliated and betrayed. He literally put my life in danger for a joke. When I got home, I talked to a lawyer and decided to sue him. I used the video as evidence, and he was served papers yesterday. He called me, and he's now furious, saying it was just a joke and that I'm overreacting after 13 years of friendship. Next story. My neighbor complained about sharing the elevator with my dog and told Maine to use the stairs. I told him to move if he couldn't handle living with pets. I, 27F, live in a building that allows up to 2 dogs with no breed or weight restrictions. I have a 12-Yogo Chiweenie who's nothing but sweet. She rarely barks and does good with everybody, including cats. I took the elevator so she could go on her walk, sit down on the sidewalk, and this kid, 20-ish, was in there first. He asked me to not come in, but I told him we have every right to use the elevators and came in. He basically squished himself into the opposite corner, started shaking, and asked me to put her behind my legs because he's scared of dogs. I told him that if he's scared of dogs, he shouldn't live in a dog-friendly apartment. He stuttered out that he wasn't asking much of me. I told him that it's entitled to ask others to accommodate his triggers. By the time this was over, he literally ran out the elevator. This one lady working at the front desk asked me if everything was okay, and I told her he was being a baby over sharing an elevator with my 7-pound dog. She went, "I don't want to get involved, but the next time something like that happens, please take the next elevator." I didn't want to get on management's shit list, so I just nodded and walked away. I asked a few neighbors who have dogs, and they all said I was in the wrong and shouldn't have even gone in the elevator. I asked my friends and family, and everybody thought I was being rude. My aunt replied, "It costs nothing to be kind to people despite what your generation seems to think." Ida? I'm scared of spiders, but I don't make it everybody else's problem. Next story. So my girlfriend expects Maine to change my diet to match her new food preferences. I refused, and now she's saying I'm inconsiderate. I, 28M, have been with my lovely Geef, 29F, for 3 years. We moved in together about a year ago. Aside from this issue, our relationship is perfect. She's a smart, compassionate, and successful woman, and I love her very much. I work part-time while my Geef works full-time as a nurse. As such, I have taken up more of the chores around the house, including cooking. I love to cook, so I have no issue doing it. However, my Geef's food preferences are so insanely restrictive that it has sucked the joy out of cooking for me. She refuses to eat anything she deems unhealthy, which means no spaghetti, no hamburgers, no sloppy joes, no chili, nothing. Our go-to meal is grilled chicken with fresh veggies, which is delicious, but not I eat this 7 days a week delicious. I'm so bored of eating the same meals over and over. Anything with too many carbs? No. Anything greasy? No. A few times I've made my family's lasagna or grilled some hamburgers, stuff that I want to eat, and my Geef would blow up at me and refuse to eat and guilt me about it. So I have reached my limit. I haven't eaten something I like to eat in almost a year. So I sat her down a few days ago and said I was going to start cooking things I want to eat. I would still incorporate her favorite meals during the week, but some days I would cook stuff that I liked too. She was furious. She said that it was unfair of me to cook something she doesn't like, especially when she works long shifts and looks forward to dinner. She said that we both eat the healthy meals, whereas she would not eat the unhealthy meals, so I'd be selfish for cooking something that only one of us could eat. She asked me to make 2 meals. I said that it was unfair for her to expect me to cook 2 separate meals every night. I said she can eat the unhealthy meals, she chooses not to. I told her sorry, but if I'm cooking, I want to make things I like sometimes too. She was so upset that she went to stay with her parents. Now she is calling me an AH as well as her family. They all eat only healthy meals. I just miss hot dogs and French fries.